We got to talk about the New York Giants as well. They also earned their first win of the season, of course, against the Saints in the Superdome. 27-21 in overtime was the final in that one. Tyler, I know you were locked into this game. So what did you see? What did you like from that W last week?
Well, I'm excited, first of all. The New York Football Giants got their first victory of the season.
Much needed.
Much needed. I was so worried that, especially with this upcoming stretch against 6 straight playoff teams that are superior to the Giants, was a much needed win, an away win against a very tough Saints team in the Superdome. Saints with their first game back in the Superdome, obviously with the Hurricane Ida, I believe. Prayers for the Saints fans and everybody in that area.
For sure, yeah.
It was a very exciting win for the Giants. They showed a lot of steps. For example, I'll start off with our guy, Danny Dimes. Daniel Jones took probably his best performance of his career. His first game, over 400 passing yards in his NFL career. It's just, I'm so excited to see what he can do. I was very hot and cold on him coming into the year. I knew the arm talent was there, but I was worried about the decision making. But only up until week 5 now, we're going to week 5, he's only had 2 turnovers, and one was a Hail Mary interception at the end of the half last week.
Yeah.
I thought that Daniel Jones played his best ball last week, played a very solid game, and the Giants' offense finally, for the first time since Pat Shurmur was our offensive coordinator or head coach, we pushed the ball down the field.
Yeah.
The Giants started pushing the ball down the field, getting their playmakers involved, which was the talk of this offseason, getting playmakers such as Kenny Golladay, Saquon Barkley back from a torn ACL, Kadarius Toney, a healthy Sterling Shepard, and Darius Slayton, who unfortunately haven't played the last 2 games. But Daniel Jones coming into this year, in the words of Giants fans, had 0 excuses.
Yes.
And he's lived up to the hype. I'd say confidently, he's lived up to the hype. He's been
I don't know. Don't get too ahead of yourself.
I won't get too ahead of myself.
Don't get too excited here.
I won't get too ahead of myself, but I'll say this right now.
Yeah.
With the fact that he's finally gotten a franchise left tackle, and Andrew Thomas, who's looked phenomenal through his first 4 weeks, been able to shut down edge rushers that last year would have been holding calls, false starts, giving up sacks. Daniel Jones looks much more comfortable in the pocket now that he has somebody to protect him. I think this week is going to be fun for Daniel Jones playing against a very, very talented Cowboys team.
Yeah.
Who their defense has taken a step this year. Their offense, we already know the Dallas Cowboys have one of the best offenses in the NFL.
Yep.
Loaded offense, but their defense has taken a step. I think they're one of the top teams in takeaways.
Yeah, they're forcing a ton of turnovers.
But
they also are giving up a lot of points. That's
They
something to think about as well. I mean, with this Giants team, going back to last week for a second there, we mentioned the Falcons a little bit earlier.
Yep.
The Giants were coming off a terrible loss to them.
Brutal.
Absolutely terrible loss to them, a game they should have won. And it was really 2 games in a row they should have won. They went from Washington and then Atlanta as well. And it looked like they were on their way to another loss against the Saints here. I mean, come second half, they were in a deficit in the Superdome, like we mentioned. I got to give a ton of credit. I mean, you got to give credit to both the offense and defense in this one. The defense the defense stepped up big time. They were able to really batten down and say, okay, we cannot allow the Saints to score basically any more.
Right.
And they really didn't.
They slowed down Alvin Kamara big time.
They slowed down Kamara, which is huge. Jameis Winston has been getting a ton of hype for the Saints team. They slowed him down as well.
Right.
They did a lot, and they really put the offense and put Daniel Jones in great positions to be able for Daniel Jones to use those weapons, like we mentioned.
Right.
Sure, there's no Slayton, but you still have Kenny Golladay, and you still have having Kadarius Toney come out like that in game, really, I think the only time we haven't seen much of Toney.
We haven't.
At all.
Yep.
And now he finally has the opportunity to play with some injuries to this wide receiver core, but it's pretty deep. You're seeing how deep it can be. Daniel Jones finally got those weapons, like we mentioned, and then having Saquon back as well, who still isn't really 100% of himself.
Right.
But it will get there.
This is the best Saquon's looked all year.
Yeah, it's a bet. So that's a really positive sign as well. But I was super impressed with the offense, super impressed with Daniel Jones and what he showed, and the depth of this wide receiver core. I mean, having Galladay and having Toney kind of step up and being that guy as well.
Right.
I mean, that really impressed me from this Giants team.
I'm really excited to see what the Giants can do this upcoming weekend against the Cowboys because, as we said, Saquon, he's not 100%. But he's very close. He's nearing that level. as this week I've actually heard like news that he practiced for back-to-back days for the first time since before he tore his ACL.
Yeah.
It's massive news for him because that's just a huge news for his rehab. Because when healthy, Saquon Barkley is probably the most dynamic running back in football.
Yes.
He can catch the ball. He can run between the tackles. Extremely shifty. And he's such a big weapon for Daniel Jones because having that run game will open up the play action in that Jason Garrett system. Granted, I don't really like Jason Garrett.
Yeah, I don't know how you can be a Giants fan and like Jason Garrett.
I'm going to be honest. I despise Jason Garrett.
That's totally understandable.
But I will give credit where credit is due. He did call up a pretty good game plan this past weekend.
I think the big thing for him, and sorry to cut you off, but the big thing for him is getting Daniel Jones in positions to scramble and run the football.
Right.
Daniel Jones is a sneaky good runner. That's something.
Very fast.
Underrated runner. I mean, he really is for how fast he is. I mean, that element of the game, especially with Saquon, getting better but still not 100%, is huge to kind of mix things up, provide a little bit of run instead of being so pass heavy, which I think is massive for this team. And Daniel Jones, that's one of the biggest parts of his game.
Right. His legs, his dual threat.
Limiting the turnovers is huge. I think that's another big part. And his legs. I mean, he really can change a game with scrambling and running the football.
Exactly. If you look at, for example, that Washington game where the Giants lost on a last-second field goal, theme of the early season against Washington, against Atlanta, they lost on last-second field goals.
Yes.
But if you look at that game, Daniel Jones ran for 95 yards and a touchdown, I believe.
Yeah.
And he had another huge run that got called back on a holding by C.J. Board, the wide receiver.
Yep, I remember that.
That right there opens up the Giants' offense so much. The Giants scored 29 points that game.
Yep.
One of the bigger games for the Giants. The biggest offensive outburst for the Giants this whole season. Daniel Jones's legs are so important to this Giants team, especially behind a patchwork offensive line. As I said earlier, Andrew Thomas has looked fantastic throughout the first 4 weeks. We don't know if he's going to play this week.
Mm-hmm.
He has an ankle injury from the Saints game that has lingered over this week. He's I don't know if he's practiced, and if he has, he's been limited. That he might be out, and that might put Daniel Jones behind another patchwork offensive line. Have to move Nate Solder to left tackle.
Yep.
Young second-year guy Matt Pert to right tackle. That's going to have Daniel Jones running a lot.
He's going to be running for his life.
He's going to be running rampant.
Running for his life a little bit.
It's a little worrisome, but if there's anybody who can run like that, it's Daniel Jones. He's got wheels.
He does. He does.
First of all, it opens up the offense because if he's throwing on the run, running the ball, gets guys who are good off-schedule playmakers like Saquon can come out of the backfield. A guy like Kadarius Toney, who I really want to talk about, he showed so much like what everybody was so excited about.
His talent is just through the roof.
Undeniable talent.
His ability. It's like, I mean, similar to his counterpart at Florida, Kyle Pitts. It's like he walks into the room and he just has this, like unbelievable talent that just makes him so exciting.
He makes juice that you've never seen before.
So exciting for what he can bring, with more skill and with more time in the NFL.
Yeah.
The weapon that he can be for this offense, I think is unbelievable.
I hope Jason Garrett can utilize him decently because this kid Kadarius Toney is a human joystick. He's so
yes,
so
that's a good
shifty.
way to put it. Yeah, I love
he's
that.
a human joystick. He's so shifty, so talented, so good at getting in and out of breaks, and one of the best run after catch artists in NFL already. I'm not going to overhype him. I'm honest. If you saw what he did last weekend, he was abusing Saints defensive backs. Right after he got the ball, he ran across the field, juked like 5 guys, and I was like, I haven't seen this since Odell. I've not seen this since Odell Beckham Jr. was a Giant.
Yeah.
That's what makes me so excited about him, and I hope that he can fly his way up the depth charts for the Giants and become that guy.